Joining us right now. Well, let me just underline this. I know Sam doesn't want me to embarrass him, but the nature of covering the sport out there in the bubble leads to quite a few late nights. There was a point yesterday where I actually tried to talk Sam out of coming on today because I knew he would be up late after game one of the NBA Finals. He has reporter stuff to do. Sam texted me back, said, no. I've made a commitment. I'm happy to come on. I don't know if he's happy to come on, but he's a man of his word, even though I would have forgiven him had he slept in. So up early just for you, the one, the only, from The Athletic, Samuel Amick. Hello, Sam.
Good morning, Dave. I appreciate the kind words. Happy to come on that's 4 words. I'm gonna choose one of them. I'm on.
Not to get too inside, and I always try to filter these through just in case. But on my text line, I can't imagine who this is from, but it says, tell Sam to have his kids wash his car in the driveway. It's been sitting there collecting dirt and ash.
Well, thank you, neighbor John. I will do that. Also, since I got up early and I'm sleep deprived, and I'm gonna hijack your platform,
Please.
Dave, and maybe you can cut this clip for me later, and I can score points as a dad. I'm gonna take a moment.
All right, hold on. Hold on. Run tape.
Tape is running.
Jay's got it. All right. This is the Sam Amick Show. Sam, the floor is yours in 3,
Thank
2,
you.
1, go.
A loving happy birthday to my oldest son, Ryder, who is 14 today, who is a wonderful young man, and I will see him soon, especially with the way the Lakers played last night. And very sorry that I'm missing the birthday, but we will make up for it when Dad comes home.
Sam, can I just ask something real quick?
Hold on, and cut. Okay, go ahead.
Sam, are you like, and just from a personal standpoint, take all the professional stuff out, are you just praying for a clean sweep 4-0 just to get home at this point?
Yeah, it's funny. Like, we were debating that question last night. To be honest, I don't know. I can't, like, the writer in me would like to just see a decent series. The family is held up pretty well. FaceTime helps, and there's nothing like being home, but I mean, we've been doing okay. So the other part, it's interesting. I texted my colleague Joe Varden last night, and he's the one who was here on the first half of the bubble. And I said, the only good part, although John will be offended by this, my neighbor, the only good part about coming home is the family, given the vastly different realities of this world compared to the actual real world. Meaning that there's this sense in the bubble from people who have been here for a while, like, yeah, of course we want to get out of here, we want to go home, but we also, it's not lost on us at all that the type of lifestyle that you can live in this environment because of the protections in the medical side is once we go home, we lose all that again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, sure, I was up late writing a story. I also continued to socialize with people for about an hour after my story was done, sitting by a lake fairly close to one another without masks on, where everybody's getting tested every day, and so there's a weird kind of protective feeling in here that, I don't forget at all what came before the bubble. I mean, Dave, you and I have talked offline, like, everybody's got their own version of this story, but we had stressful family situations related to the virus. We had, stressful personal situations related to just the lack of freedom and the necessary restrictions because this thing is not under control. So that's a long answer to the question, but that's the only reason that I'm fine with the long series, because I also know that once I get home, to be honest, from a work standpoint, and I wrote this today, I don't know the next time that I'll be at a game. I think it's going to be quite some time. So, I'm trying to just enjoy these last days here.
Sam Amick with us from Orlando in the bubble. And just one more piggyback on that, too. I do think that's fascinating. And, You and I know each other very, very well and have for well over a decade. And I know you to be a committed family man, much like myself. Our families have hung out. I know you love your wife and kids. I'm saying all this disclaimer stuff for a reason. But take that aside. You're missing your family. You're missing your son's 14th birthday. You are there because of a horrible pandemic. Like, I'm disclaiming this all over the place for a reason, Sam. But my God, when you were a young lad, either breaking into the business or as a teenager, you're this is like camp for NBA basketball. You're in an enclosed environment with the superstars of the league, and you get your own hotel room, and you get all this food and awesomeness, and you get to hang out in this beautiful Orlando area at a freaking Disney park. And there's got to be a party that's like, the whole reason I'm here sucks, and I hate being without my family. But is that kind of the mental thing you do to make yourself feel better? At the same time, I'm being paid to literally be at NBA Disneyland.
Well, I mean, yeah, everything but, gosh, you almost landed it, Dave.
Damn it! God!
Everything but the last part. Like, this is not Disneyland. I should send you a map that shows the whole bubble, the map of where we are. Mm-hmm. But then I would have to pencil out the part where we are allowed to stay. Like, we are confined to a relatively small area. And so that bothers some people. I keep joking that, like, I'm so happy that referee Scott Foster, who's my new friend in the bubble, is good at his job, because he's the one who brought the pickleball net, and pickleball has become like everybody's favorite thing to do around here. And if he wasn't good enough to qualify for the finals, then he would have taken his pickleball net and gone home, and we would have been down another activity. We already lost the boat fishing trips, and now I sound all bougie, like, oh, poor guy, you lost your boat fishing trip, but so it's not Disney World, but it's not. But again, it's better than a lot of what other people are allowed to do when you go home and you can't socialize, can't be around people.
Yeah, you're not in Cleveland,
right?
Is that what we're doing? Just shading Cleveland now?
Why not?
Right. But the sports writing part has been wonderful. I mean, last night's a great example. Adam Silver is in the bubble now, and I mean, listen, I've known Adam for years, but because the media core is so small, everything is more low-key, and so he finishes his press conference last night, and I'm able to sit there and talk to him for about 10 minutes after the press conference. That's much harder to do and basically impossible at an NBA Finals press conference in normal times. And so you have those interactions. We've talked in the past about different interviews that I enjoyed doing during the bubble experience. And so it has been like a sports writer camp, and it's been challenging. Like, every day, even though I feel like I'm pretty good at this and I've been doing it a long time, like, every day you're kind of, you want to feel like you're doing some of the best work out there. You want to feel like you're taking advantage of it, but you are conflicted, because, like, the last thought here is, and I'm getting way too deep, but you're the one who wanted me to come on, and that means that I just woke up, which means that, like, my dreams are fresh.
It's the best, Sam. It's my favorite, Sam.
Dude, I literally had a dream, and you should cut this clip for my wife so she can roll her eyes. Like, I mean, in terms of, like, the tugging of home, I had a dream that I left the bubble, that she was in Orlando in a different hotel, and that I left the bubble to go say hello. But in the dream, like, what I discovered is that she was it was a hotel where, like, the door to her room was on the outside, and essentially it locked, but it was a doorway that had enough space for anybody to just squeeze right into her hotel room. And the takeaway of the dream was that, like, my wife was in an unsafe, like, environment, and that was all my fault. You know what I mean? Like, and that was a little dark and a little bit of you wake up and go, oh boy, I'm clearly feeling guilty about being gone. So, I mean, that stuff kind of eats at you too.
Sam Amick joining us, and we have been serious, so I will just segue out by saying we'll leave the tugging at home for another show. This is a PG program, Sam.
I told you.
I know you told me not to. I couldn't. I love Sam.
Sam, I can't help. He's a child.
He is sleepy and unfiltered, and I couldn't not do it. We've been up for 2 hours. Sam, have you gotten any little face coffee or big face coffee?
No. Well,
there's
little
both.
face is a thing too.
Right.
Yeah. So Brandon Gilliam is the Heat trainer who decided to compete with Jimmy Butler's Big Face Coffee.
Yes. $20 a cup.
Yeah, so Brandon came in at $10 a cup, and I asked Jimmy the other day, and he was walking with Brandon, and it's incredible. Like, if anybody thinks this is all an act, like the second Jimmy's press conference ends, and I've seen this twice now, like in terms of conversational topics, he immediately pivots from like the press conference discussion to coffee and like the nuances of coffee. He's walking out with Brandon, and he's instantly sitting there going, "What do you think if I did this with the water instead of that?" And like workshopping, like how to make it better. And so when I heard that, I said, "Man, you're not joking with this, are you?"
He's 100% doing this after the bubble, isn't he?
Yeah, for sure. So then I said to Brandon, I was like, "Hey, I heard you're the competition. Like, are you cutting into his market at all?" And he had a pretty good line. Jimmy looks at me. He's just like, "Man, hell no." He's like, he's in the hood. I'm in Beverly Hills.
I don't even know what to say to that.
Go ahead, ask your basketball question.
Sam Amick from The Athletic joining us. Sam, Dave has given me permission for me to do something he hates, and that's ask you a basketball question.
That's fine.
Right.
Non-final story of the week, obviously Doc Rivers out in L.A. How do you see this going, both for where Doc is going to end up and who might be in charge in L.A. come next season?
The Ty Lue possibility is certainly front and center, and you kind of hope for the Clippers' sake that it doesn't appear that they've secured that before making this move. So if they lose Doc and then they lose Ty and then they go into somebody else, I don't know. It's a stunning decision and one that I don't know. We had a really good piece. Our Clippers beat writer Yovan Buha really got to a lot of the issues that appear to have been going on, and it's everything from philosophical differences to an over-reliance on Montrezl Harrell and not using Ivica Zubac enough, and not fostering the chemistry between superstars enough, and there's a lot. And even now, I think with Doc, he and Steve Ballmer obviously got sideways at the end in some capacity, but I don't know where they go. And I do think that it instantly makes them, the ripple effect could be massive because obviously Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are free agents next summer. And they both came home and they're from the LA area. And, we're so guilty all the time in the media of talking about things like they're just gospel and not leaving room for the what if scenarios. Like, oh, LeBron's going to stay in Cleveland until the end of his career. Kawhi and Paul aren't going to leave their home areas. But I guarantee you, if the basketball situation is not any good, then, if they want to stay home, they got to talk to the Lakers. And if that's not feasible, then, maybe they go somewhere else. So I don't know where it all goes, but it's definitely not good.
Sam Amick with us talking about Doc Rivers. I had heard this, that as a player and a coach, when Doc Rivers played in Philadelphia where he interviewed, he was introduced as Glenn Rivers, and that's because to Philly there's only one Doc. True story, Dr. J. Do you think that's part of the negotiations? Do you think if he becomes the Philadelphia 76ers head coach, they continue to introduce him as Glenn Rivers? They got to give that up, right?
That's a good point, actually. I don't think Doc Rivers has any problem with his birth name. Yeah. I forget the backstory on why.
Rick Majerus, an assistant at Marquette, the late great Rick Majerus. Doc Rivers was at a camp and he was wearing a Dr. J shirt. Majerus called him Doc, and it stuck from then on. I just learned this the other day.
Oh, there we go.
There you
Beautiful.
go. Thanks.
Yeah, I think whatever the contract looks like, if that's what the Sixers want to do, then Doc Rivers, you can call him Fred if you want. But it also two thoughts come to mind. For one, remember when Draymond Green trolled Doc by using his birth name in the playoffs.
Yes.
Between the Warriors and Clippers.
Yes.
Yeah. Doc said something critical of the Warriors, and Draymond's line was, "Cool story, Glenn."
Hey, is Draymond Green honestly becoming the best mouthpiece in the NBA right now? He's been phenomenal, I feel like, over the last 2 months.
I mean, he's always been good. I've always loved him media-wise. I'm a sucker for anybody who lets us do what we call the walk and talk, after the press conference. Give me something fresh, give me something different. And Draymond does that, and he actually talks, and he says stuff. So, yeah, he's fantastic on TV. Basketball-wise, I'm dying to see what the Warriors look like next year. I keep thinking about that, watching these Lakers. LeBron got to the top of the Western Conference mountain, and I'm not saying that the Warriors would have beat the Lakers. I just don't know what to think of the Warriors anymore. But the one, truth that I'm safe to say is they went to 5 straight finals. Yes, 2 of them with Kevin Durant, but they're going to be a good squad next year. So I'm really curious to see what happens there. But yeah, the other thought, I'm losing my sleep deprivation's kicking in a little bit. But the other doc thought I had was our guy who wrote that Clippers story. I know it's low hanging fruit, but it did make me laugh. At the end of his piece, he's analyzing what went wrong with the Clippers, and so I think his kicker line at the very end of it was that he wasn't what the doctor ordered.
Oh, wow.
I get it, because Doc.
Gotcha, yeah. All right. Sam Amick joining us as we wind down. So I'll give you a quick 2-parter here. Number one, I believe Miami was up 23-10 to start the game. Was there any point where you actually thought, "Oh my God, the Heat are torching the Lakers"? Did you reassessed even that early your pick in the series? And then number two, can you tell me why Frank Vogel had AD and LeBron on the floor with $1:30 left, and I think they were up 17?
To the first question, yeah, I mean that time and pick your score. I think it was 25-12 too. Okay. I mean, I was guilty of not watching that closely at that point because the Adam Silver press conference had just ended. You're watching, but you're kind of getting situated. And so, without giving it enough thought, I mean, did I think that the Heat were off to a good start? Of course. And so, speaking of kind of corny jokes like the one I just dropped from the article, I tweeted that the Heat was on, and then I had to, I just said the Heat is on, and then I had to retweet myself and say, okay, the Heat is off.
Yeah.
It was quick. I mean, they were hitting shots, but yeah, they definitely look like they're in big time trouble. I mean, the Lakers' size is a major problem. They weren't able to slow them down in transition. Bam Adebayo gets in foul trouble. It was a train wreck, and now you've got the Goran Dragic injury. You got other guys banged up. I mean, Jimmy with the ankle. I'm leaving somebody else out. There's another Heat injury.
Bam Adebayo got hurt too, right?
Yeah. What does Bam have?
I don't know the extent of the injury, but I think he's day to day.
Yeah. So I mean, it was bad, and I don't know, probably shouldn't have overlooked. I mean, with LeBron in general, it had this feeling of like if LeBron, if we had a conversation about the fact that I picked the Lakers in 7, that LeBron's answer might have been you seriously think I'm gonna the Heat are great. They've had a nice success story, but his level of motivation seems to be incredibly high, and if he can turn it on every night like he did in Game 5 of the West Finals, then there's not going to be much that the Heat can do. So, yeah, they look like they're in big-time trouble.
That's a left shoulder strain on Adebayo. I just looked that up. It looks like X-rays came back negative, so we'll see. And
completely out of time, so yes, no, will suffice or whatever. Am I overthinking Frank Vogel leaving AD and LeBron out on the floor up 17, a minute and a half left? That really bothered me. Am I just thinking too much?
No, it's weird. I don't know. That happens every once in a while. But I don't have much commentary for it other than that's a fair observation.
Well, yeah, 20 minutes of good commentary with us. We appreciate you getting up. Go grab yourself some cheap Little Face coffee. Happy birthday to Ryder, 14 years old. My daughter turns 13 on Monday, Sam. We are getting old, my friend.
We are. You gonna leave on that depressing note? We're not getting old, man.
I will. I'm going to call your wife afterwards and get that car washed. I'll send people over there to do it. Don't want your kid doing it on his birthday. And we can't wait for you to get back. But appreciate all the fine work you're doing with The Athletic. Go to theathletic.com. Phenomenal deals going on right now, as low as $1. Subscribe. Best sports journalism in the land. Great layout, great app, and people like Sam making it happen for you. Appreciate you, buddy. Thank you.
You got it. Thanks, guys.